Good afternoon, everyone. Seems more than any other of these videos, I feel more like a talking head, and maybe that's all you're seeing right now. Anyway, I don't want to talk about my head. I'd rather talk about time today. And time is something I've been thinking quite a bit about just lately, partially because January seemed to be such a slow month. It seemed to take forever to get through. At least that's my experience. You could probably find somebody else that would say that January just flew by for them. It's very relative, this passage of time. And the way we perceive time is kind of funny because we can spend a long time doing something and feel like we haven't accomplished much. If you talk to some people and ask them how they've spent this last year, they might say something like that there was a lot of time, but they didn't really accomplish a whole lot. It's a funny thing. Right now, over the past couple of weeks, we just passed the first anniversary of the first reported case in Canada of COVID-19, and yet we know we're not out of the woods yet. We keep hearing things about vaccines being delayed and other things like variants. Now, this video isn't meant to depress, just to remind us, maybe myself too, that we're not done yet. When Christian people, or I suppose anybody, reads the Bible, if they so choose, we can read it in a way that we don't always take in the reality of the passage of time. I'm sometimes guilty of this too. What I mean by that is we can read something like Abram traveled here and did this and then went over there and did that, or the Israelites spent 40 years getting from here to there, even though some scholars believe the distance they traveled actually only would take them 11 days or so. They wandered around a lot, I guess. But we read that and just say, oh, they traveled for 40 years, and oh, then they did this, and then they went over here and did that, and we forget what that's like. I mean, 40 years, or a really, really long time, a generation or more, that makes our 1 year of pandemic living seem almost trivial in a way. Now, I don't want to trivialize our past year of living together, because one of the things that it has done socially is, even though it's separated us physically from being together, we've learned to socialize in different ways. Some families found themselves with more time together when some parents haven't worked for a while, kids haven't been in school, and in some ways that might have been an answer to prayer for families that wish they did have more time together. In other situations, people just simply weren't able to go out, and so they were home together more. Now, different situations make some things good or bad depending on the needs as they know them for their own family situation. But time is a funny thing. And as we enter this sort of a second year of things, when time gets a little longer, it seems like people lose more hope. Coming in toward Christmas, when we heard about vaccines and other things, we were really hopeful, even though we were warned about Christmas gatherings and things. And in New Brunswick, at least where I live, things got a little tough in January as our caseloads skyrocketed compared to what we'd been at. So it wasn't an easy time. And now vaccines are delayed, time has continued on, and people seem to be, I don't know if you'd say losing hope, or at least not speaking as hopefully as they once did in the recent past. But because time has continued and is lengthening, that doesn't mean that there's any reason to lose hope. I mean, after all, some people in God's story have spent a real long time not seeing any real measure of what they might call success or accomplishment toward the goal. Things were really tough. In the first years after Jesus left, they were persecuted horribly, sometimes hunted and rounded up, forced to hide and to keep their faith a real secret. They really needed to hear a word of hope as well. And so do we. The sufferings that are happening around here aren't any worse, or they're just different from other people. I mean, suffering cannot be quantified that way on a scale of 1 to 10. Many people in the Bible wrote of hope, and St. Paul, in a letter to the Roman church, ended his letter after talking about some of the theological rationales for who Jesus is and how he relates to God. After all of those things, speaking to people that knew suffering in their own way, he said to them that may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing. I think that says something to us too. Maybe we need to pray for the God of hope to instill us. Maybe joy might be a little far-fetched for some, but certainly peace. maybe we can all pray for peace right now, so that the anxiousness around failing hope in a cure for the virus doesn't take over everything. There's every reason to hope now, just as much as there was then. Maybe more so, because vaccines are among us. Think we are learning more and more, and we understand better now. So that's my message to anyone listening or watching this today, is that there's every reason to continue to hope. And so I hope you can find that. See what I did there? Hope you can find that. Yeah, I'm not good with the puns. Keep hoping. Sure and certain hope that Christians have that ultimately God will look after them, and God loves all people. And so we have every reason to hope in Him. Hope that things will come to not an end, but maybe into the new being where things are freer again, as we're used to enjoying. Some food for thought today, and I hope this has been a beneficial time spent for you. See you soon.